Welcome to tonight's special horror story, where the unexplainable and the mysteries of darkness are slowly revealed. Tonight, we dive into one of Manhattan's most terrifying secrets, the Phantom of Halloween Night. A chilling tale about a murderous ghost that has haunted this city for decades. A mysterious entity that appears every Halloween, spreading fear and death from which no one can escape. And this year, the ghost has returned, with its sights set on an innocent artist couple. So light your candle, get comfortable, and listen closely to the haunting tale of this terrifying Halloween night. Manhattan, New York, Halloween 1981. The city was a sea of twinkling lights amidst the autumn darkness. Music echoed from costume parties, blending with the laughter of crowds dressed as monsters, witches, and strange characters. Manhattan, normally busy and hurried, now wore an eerie, mysterious veil, transforming into a grand stage. In a high-rise apartment overlooking Greenwich Village, Anna and Michael, a young artist couple, were busy preparing for their own Halloween party. Their apartment was filled with art, abstract paintings and sculptures that reflected their bold and creative inner worlds. The space was bathed in a haunting atmosphere, with dim candlelight and fake cobwebs strung everywhere. Anna stood by the window, looking down at the street below. People in strange costumes passed by, but one figure caught her attention. A shadowy figure dressed like a ghost stood motionless under the streetlight. Still among the moving crowd, the figure didn't move, just stood there, staring up at her apartment. A chill ran down her spine. "Michael, do you see that person?" Anna turned and called to her boyfriend. Michael, busy with the last of the party decorations, walked over and glanced down, but by the time he looked, the ghostly figure had disappeared, leaving only the bustling crowd behind. "It's probably just someone messing around," Michael chuckled, giving her a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "Just a Halloween prank," Anna reluctantly agreed, but she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. She returned to her preparations, trying to convince herself that everything was fine. It was just a Halloween party, nothing to worry about. Yet, the image of that dark figure haunted her. The evening came quickly, and guests began arriving for the party. The apartment was soon filled with laughter and music. Everyone was dressed in bizarre costumes, vampires, monsters, witches, and skeletons. In the lively atmosphere, Anna and Michael finally began to relax and enjoy the night. But among the costumed faces, a ghost appeared, a man, or at least he seemed to be, draped in a white sheet that covered his entire body from head to toe. His face completely obscured, he quietly stood in the corner of the room, barely moving. At first, Anna thought he was just a latecomer to the party. But as she watched him, the chill returned. Michael, as usual, was engrossed in lively conversations with friends, leaving Anna to face her strange fear alone. She walked toward the ghost, intending to ask who he was and where he had come from. But as she got closer, the figure stepped back into the shadows of the room, as if avoiding her. "Who are you?" Anna asked, her voice betraying a mix of curiosity and unease. The ghost didn't reply, just stood there, motionless. "What's going on?" Michael appeared behind her, startling Anna. When she turned back, the ghost had vanished, as if he had never been there. "Maybe someone's trying to play a prank," Michael said, trying to brush it off. But he couldn't help but notice the tension on Anna's face. "Hey, it's just a joke, don't worry." Anna nodded, but her unease only grew. She tried to immerse herself in the party, blending into the crowd, but her eyes kept scanning the room, searching for the mysterious figure. The party raged on, but for Anna, the atmosphere had turned heavy and dangerous. Every time she glanced out the window, she felt like she was being watched, as though something was waiting in the darkness, ready to strike at any moment. And then, the lights went out. The apartment was plunged into total darkness. Everyone laughed, thinking it was just part of the Halloween fun. But the laughter was soon drowned out by a blood-curdling scream from the corner of the room. Anna stood frozen, feeling like a nightmare was about to unfold. The scream echoed through the apartment, causing everyone to stop, confused and frightened. When the lights flickered back on, Michael was lying on the floor, blood pouring from a deep gash across his throat, his eyes wide with terror. The ghost was gone. The apartment was flooded with light again, but the atmosphere had completely changed. The excitement of the Halloween party vanished, replaced by chaos and unspeakable horror. Michael lay motionless on the floor, his eyes wide open and lifeless, with blood still seeping from the gash on his neck. Screams echoed throughout the apartment as friends realized the horror that had just unfolded. Anna collapsed next to Michael's body, her trembling hands touching his cold face. She called his name, but only silence responded. In that moment, everything seemed to stop. Fear and pain overwhelmed her. But deep down, Anna sensed something worse. The ghost, the figure that had killed Michael, was still somewhere, hiding in the shadows of the apartment. "Call the police," someone shouted, snapping Anna back to reality. One of the guests had already dialed the police, and footsteps echoed in the hallway as people began to panic and flee the apartment. Some tried to comfort Anna, but she couldn't hear anything beyond the screams of her own heart. She looked around the room, searching for the figure that had done this. The man in the ghost costume had disappeared without a trace. By the time the police arrived, the apartment was almost empty. Michael and Anna's friends stood scattered outside, their faces pale with shock. The police sealed off the scene, and detectives quickly arrived to investigate. Detective Harris, a tall man with sharp eyes, surveyed the scene with a grim expression. He had seen many murder cases, but there was something different about this. It felt too calculated, too eerie. "You're Anna, right?" Harris asked as he approached. Anna nodded, her eyes still fixed on Michael's lifeless body. "Can you tell me what happened?" Harris spoke calmly, though his voice carried an undertone of urgency. Anna shook her head, her eyes red from tears. She couldn't find the words. Everything had happened too fast, too horrifyingly. All she could remember was the ghost, the figure that had been there. But why had he killed Michael? Why had he chosen their apartment? And more importantly, where had he gone? Harris looked around the apartment, his gaze scanning every corner where Anna and Michael's art still adorned the walls. There was a strange contrast between the creative atmosphere and the cold, calculated crime that had just occurred. He turned back to Anna, waiting for her response. There was a man," Anna finally said, her voice trembling. "He was dressed as a ghost. He was here all night, but no one knew who he was. Then when the lights went out, I heard the scream. And Michael? Did you get a good look at him? Can anyone identify him?" Harris asked, his tone becoming sharper. Anna shook her head, her eyes empty. "He just stood there, not speaking, not moving. I don't know where he came from. It all happened so fast." Harris turned to the other officers who were searching for clues. But the strange thing was, there were no signs that the killer had left the apartment. No footprints, no open windows, no signs of forced entry. It was as if the ghost had truly vanished into thin air. "Does this apartment have a security system?" Harris asked, glancing around. "Yes," Anna replied, confused. "We have security cameras in the hallway. They record everyone who comes and goes." Harris immediately ordered the officers to check the security footage. But when they reviewed the footage, something strange happened. There was no sign of the ghost. The other guests were clearly captured as they arrived and left the apartment. But there was no footage of a man in a ghost costume. It was as if he didn't exist. The police searched throughout the night, but no other evidence was found. Everything led to a dead end. They took statements from everyone present, but no one could provide any information about the ghost. Everyone remembered seeing him, but no one knew who he was. Some even began to wonder if they had truly seen him or if it was just a twisted Halloween prank. But Anna knew it wasn't a joke. He was real. He had killed Michael. Detective Harris looked at Anna with a mix of suspicion and confusion. The case was too mysterious, too surreal. No evidence, no clear witnesses, and no obvious motive. Just a man in a ghost costume who appeared and vanished like a shadow in the night. As the police left and the apartment fell silent, Anna felt as though she were trapped in a never-ending nightmare. The once busy room was now empty, leaving only her and the darkness. Her mind replayed the image of Michael lying there, blood pooling on the wooden floor, and the ghost standing somewhere in the apartment, waiting for his chance to strike. "He's still here," she thought. "He'll come back." 3 days had passed since Michael's murder. But for Anna, time felt frozen. Her apartment was now a cold, empty place, haunted by memories of that horrific Halloween night. Michael's artwork still adorned the walls, but now they seemed like dead shadows, lifeless fragments of a life that had been cut short. Anna couldn't stop thinking about that night, about the ghost, and about Michael's lifeless eyes when she found him. Those images spun endlessly in her mind. Like an unbreakable loop, she couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and every time she closed her eyes, she heard his blood-curdling scream echoing in her head. The police were still investigating, but they hadn't found any leads. Detective Harris, who was leading the case, had visited Anna several times, but everything seemed to lead to a dead end. Harris tried to comfort her, but even he knew that this case wasn't like the others he had handled before. There was no clear motive, no physical evidence, and most bizarre of all, the ghostly figure seemed to have left no trace of ever existing. We're still looking into it, but there's nothing concrete yet. Harris sighed during one conversation with Anna. All the witness statements conflict. Some people are even starting to think they imagined the ghost. Anna felt a chill run down her spine. Imagined it? No. She knew the ghost was real. He had stood there, in her apartment, silently like a shadow among the crowd, and then vanished after taking Michael's life. Anna decided to start her own investigation. She couldn't just sit back and wait for the police to solve it. As she dug deeper, she discovered that Michael's death wasn't the only strange murder to occur around Halloween. Through old documents and newspaper articles, Anna realized that Manhattan had seen several other mysterious deaths over the years. All with one chilling commonality: a ghost had appeared before each victim was killed. In 1967, a man named Joseph Conrad was murdered at a Halloween party, and witnesses recalled seeing a ghostly figure wandering the area beforehand. Similarly, in 1952, a young woman named Martha Green was brutally killed in her apartment on Halloween night. And again, a ghost had been seen near the scene. Anna sat in her dark apartment, the dim glow of her desk lamp reflecting off the computer screen as she read through the old, yellowed reports. The more she read, the more she realized these deaths weren't random. There was a connection, a curse. That night, Anna lay in bed, her eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling as a deep sense of unease crept over her. The apartment was silent, but something felt off. She had the unsettling feeling that she was being watched. She closed her eyes, trying to shake off the anxiety. But soon, she heard soft footsteps coming from the living room. Anna froze, listening intently. That wasn't a normal sound from the old building. Someone was in her apartment. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat louder than the last. Slowly, she got out of bed, trying not to make a sound. The room was cold, and the darkness seemed thicker than usual. The footsteps continued, one after another, as if someone was drawing closer. She held her breath, her shaking hand reaching for the flashlight on the nightstand. As she stepped out of the bedroom and into the living room, a shadowy figure emerged in the corner. The ghost. He was back, standing there silently, as if waiting for her. He was still dressed in the long white costume, his face completely hidden. Anna stood frozen, her heart seemingly stopped. There was no doubt now. The ghost wasn't just a prank. He was real, and he had returned to finish what he started. "Who are you?" Anna asked, her voice trembling. "Why did you kill Michael?" The ghost didn't respond. He just stood there, as if waiting for something. She turned on the flashlight, but as the light hit where he stood, the ghost disappeared into the darkness. Anna gasped, quickly turning on all the lights in the apartment, but there was no one there. The ghost had vanished. The next day, Anna went to see Detective Harris, her face gaunt, and her eyes filled with fear. "He came back," Anna said, her voice strained. "The ghost was in my apartment last night. He's going to kill me." Harris looked at her skeptically. "Are you sure? We searched everywhere. There's no sign of anyone else in the apartment." "I'm sure. He's not human, Harris. He's something else." Harris sighed, but there was a flicker of concern in his eyes. He had heard of strange cases before, and though he didn't want to admit it, there was something about this one that made him uneasy. But how could he believe that a ghost was responsible for these deaths? "We'll continue the investigation," Harris said, his voice turning serious. "But you need to stay calm and stay somewhere safe." Anna nodded, but deep down, she knew there was no such thing as safety. The ghost wasn't human, and he wouldn't stop until he finished what he came to do. Anna sat alone in her silent apartment, surrounded by old files detailing unsolved murders in Manhattan. The dim light from the desk lamp cast shadows over the yellowed pages, highlighting the eerie ambiguity in each sentence. The mysterious killings had spanned decades, and the only common thread among them all was the appearance of a ghost before each victim was murdered. Each line of text danced in Anna's mind, forming a question that she couldn't stop asking herself. Who was the ghost? Really? Where did he come from? She sensed a deep connection between these deaths and Michael's, but she didn't know where to begin. She started reading about Joseph Conrad, a man murdered at a Halloween party in 1967. He was killed in the same way as Michael, a deep cut across the throat with no trace of the killer. Witness statements matched what she had seen. A ghost appeared at the party and then vanished after Conrad's murder. Martha Green, a young woman, was killed on Halloween night in 1952. A ghost had been seen lingering near her apartment before she was found dead in her living room. There were no signs of the killer, and the case quickly faded into obscurity. The pattern continued, each time with a new victim, and the ghost always present, like a shadow that couldn't be escaped. Every year, on Halloween, Manhattan bore witness to another mysterious murder, but no one had ever uncovered the truth behind these deaths. And over time, the city's memory of the ghostly killer began to fade. Anna decided to track down a witness to a murder that took place in 1973, a woman named Claire Donnelly. Claire had witnessed her friend's murder at a Halloween party and had also seen the ghost. But her story had been dismissed by the police, who wrote her off as a panicked woman whose testimony was unreliable. Anna found Claire thanks to an old article from 1974. She lived alone in a small house in the suburbs, having withdrawn from the world since the murder. When Anna knocked on her door, Claire answered with a wary expression, her eyes haunted by memories of the past. "You've come about the ghost, haven't you?" Claire asked as soon as she saw Anna, her voice low and heavy with worry. Anna nodded. "I need to know what happened that night. I need to understand." Claire invited Anna inside. The house was small and simple, but it had an eerie, cold atmosphere. Claire led Anna to a table and began recounting the horrifying night that had taken place nearly 3 decades earlier. "That night, my friends and I were having a Halloween party at a friend's house. Just like any other party," Claire began, her eyes staring off into the distance, as if the horrific images were playing out in front of her. "Everything was normal until I saw him. A ghost, dressed in white, standing in the corner of the room, staring at everyone but not saying a word. At first, I thought it was just someone in costume." She paused, taking a deep breath, but then the lights went out. When they came back on, my friend was dead, her throat was cut, and the ghost had disappeared. No one knew who he was, and no one could find a trace of him. Anna sat in silence, listening to Claire's story. It was exactly like what had happened to Michael. "Who do you think he is?" Anna asked, her voice barely above a whisper, afraid that if she spoke too loudly, the ghost might appear. Claire shook her head. "I don't know, but I don't think he's human. He's something else, something older, more evil. Every year, he comes back, looking for a new victim. Halloween is when he strikes, and no one can escape him." Fear surged through Anna's heart. She had once thought the ghost was just a deranged killer, a madman hiding behind a costume. But now she realized the ghost might be something far more sinister, something supernatural. He didn't kill for personal reasons, he did it for something deeper, something more malevolent. After her meeting with Claire, Anna returned to Manhattan with a heavy heart. She didn't know what to do next. If the ghost was truly a supernatural force, how could she fight him? How could she protect herself from something no one had ever been able to stop? That night, Anna sat by the window, staring down at the bustling streets of Manhattan. Darkness slowly enveloped the city, and she knew Halloween was approaching. She could feel the ghost out there, waiting, and this time, she knew he would return for another victim. In the darkness of her apartment, Anna heard a soft knock at the door. Her heart raced. She walked toward the door, her hand gripping the doorknob tightly. But she didn't open it. She knew who was on the other side. "Don't open the door, Anna," Claire had warned her. "When he knocks, that's the sign. He's chosen you." The final night of Halloween had arrived. As usual, Manhattan was buzzing with festive energy. Crowds in costumes filled the streets. Laughter and music echoed through every corner. But for Anna, there was no joy tonight. Her apartment was cloaked in darkness and tension. She had locked every window, drawn the curtains, and sat curled up on the chair, waiting for the inevitable. Claire's words echoed in her mind. "When he knocks, That's the sign. He's chosen you. She couldn't shake the thought. The ghost had come, and this time, nothing could stop him. Anna had prepared for this moment. She knew she couldn't escape, but she needed to face the truth. The ghost wasn't human, and that made him far more dangerous than any murderer. He couldn't be caught. He couldn't be stopped. But Anna needed answers. She needed to understand why he had chosen Michael, why he had returned. She sat there in the deafening silence of her apartment, the soft glow from the desk lamp illuminating the small space around her. The laughter and music outside still filtered through the windows. But Anna heard nothing except the pounding of her heart. Each beat stretched out like the tolling of a death knell. A knock echoed through the apartment. 3 soft but steady knocks. The sound reverberated through the room, making every nerve in Anna's body tense. He had arrived. Anna slowly stood up, feeling as though every step she took was weighed down by lead. She moved toward the door, her hand trembling as it reached for the doorknob. On the other side, she could sense his presence, the ghost. The one who killed Michael. The one who had haunted centuries with his terror. She knew that opening the door might mean her death, but she couldn't run any longer. She had to face the ghost, no matter the outcome. Taking a deep breath, with a slow turn, she unlocked the door and opened it. The ghost stood there, as silent as a shadow, his entire figure draped in white fabric that shimmered faintly under the dim hallway light. His face was completely obscured, but Anna could feel his gaze, cold, piercing, and filled with death. "Who are you?" Anna asked, her voice trembling but resolute. "Why did you kill Michael? Why have you come back?" The ghost didn't respond. He stood still, as if all the answers were contained in his very presence. A chill radiated from him, making the air around them freeze. But this time, Anna didn't step back. "I know you've been around for a long time," she said, her eyes fixed on the ghost, even though she couldn't see his face. "I know you've killed many people, and I know you're not human. But why? Why Michael? Why me?" The ghost remained silent for a moment, and then, for the first time, he spoke. His voice was hoarse, as if it came from the depths of some faraway place. A place long forgotten by time. "Don't you understand?" the ghost whispered, his voice soft yet commanding. "I didn't choose them. They chose me." Anna froze. "What do you mean?" "Every Halloween night," the ghost continued, his voice like a cold wind, "when people laugh and play with the darkness, they forget that darkness is no game. I am the consequence. I am the embodiment of death that they invite. Michael chose me when he treated death like a joke." Anna couldn't breathe. The ghost wasn't just some random killer. He was a supernatural force. The embodiment of vengeance, of darkness and death itself. His victims weren't chosen at random. They had unknowingly called death upon themselves. "And what about me?" Anna asked, feeling the pieces of the truth slowly coming together. "Why me?" The ghost didn't answer immediately. He stepped closer, and Anna could feel his icy breath against her skin. "You weren't chosen, Anna," he said quietly, "but you stepped into the darkness when you sought me out. And once you touch the darkness, it never lets you go." A cold shiver ran down Anna's spine. She knew it was true. The ghost had marked her, and now, he would never leave her. In that moment, Anna understood that she couldn't defeat the ghost. He couldn't be killed. He couldn't be stopped. He was part of Halloween. Part of the darkness that humanity unknowingly invited every year. She couldn't escape him, but she could do one thing: accept it. "I understand," Anna whispered, her voice calm. "You'll never stop." The ghost nodded slowly, as if confirming her realization. He turned away, stepping back into the shadows of the hallway, and gradually disappeared, as though he had never existed. But Anna knew he was still there, always watching from the darkness. The next morning, Manhattan awoke under the light of a new day. Halloween was over, and life returned to normal. But for Anna, nothing would ever be normal again. She had faced the ghost, and while she had survived, she knew he would never truly leave her. Anna left Manhattan, moving to a distant place where she hoped to escape the ghost. But every year, on Halloween, she still hears the knock at her door, a reminder that the ghost is still there, waiting, ready to return when the time comes again. And that was the story of the Phantom of Halloween Night, a supernatural entity, the embodiment of darkness and death, continuing to spread terror every time Halloween comes around. No one can escape the ghost's pursuit, and he will always return when Halloween night comes again. The rumors still linger, And if you hear a knock on your door on Halloween night, it might be your turn. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed chilling stories like this, don't forget to follow so you won't miss any terrifying moments in the next tales. Wishing you all a very safe Halloween.